One of the biggest rivalries in college football. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, on the Fox News Facebook page. Hey, hit subscribe at Apple or Spotify, and as you can see, we'll bring you into the show if you leave a comment. Mike Gunzelman, Gunz, is a writer at Outkick. He's also the host of the Gunz Show, and he joins us now. What's up, Gunz?
What's going on? Listen, Will, I got to say this, man. I was also tweeting with Augustus, who we were just talking about. I had been tweeting him the last couple of days, and you have been one of the only people that has really been able to not take the leap, but at least bring him on, because I think, you know, you have to at least have these discussions and conversations. Now, do I agree with everything that he has said? No, but at least I give him props for at least defending and coming out and explaining himself. I think a ton of CEOs could learn so much from him, at least being transparent. You know what I mean? So just a really job well done right there. You know, we'll learn more. Man. Do I think it had a direct effect? Of course not. But of course, social media is a cesspool. It's a minefield these days. A lot of things you don't even know what's happening, but I do give him props. I think he's been very kind of transparent and open. Unfortunate circumstance. I do have plenty of questions, though, separately besides this incident, but just wanted to give you props, man. I saw it yesterday on your show, and then I had been tweeting him as well.
Oh, I appreciate that, Gunz. I'm curious. He may have responded to you. He seems to be responding to a lot of people on X.
Yeah, we were going back and forth.
But before, I'm curious what your questions are or what you disagree with. Just we don't have to belabor it, but I am curious.
Yeah, no worries at all. And I just wanted to give my biggest thing is, okay, so he's one company that has come out and said and explained himself. But there's like at least 7 other ones that are all across Texas, and those are the ones that we know about. And so he's coming out, but what about the other ones? Now, he might have been the only one specifically in that area. I don't even know if that's true or not, but he might be doing it right, but is everybody else doing it right? I still think that, you know, that there should be more transparency on that aspect, or a little bit more questions. And, you know, you were all on the Maui situation, as you mentioned, and I remember tweeting you back and forth because I was hitting Maui and the authorities and everything. And of course, the police chief was the same Las Vegas captain where I lost some of my friends from the Las Vegas shooting that happened. He went from Las Vegas to Maui, like a lot of questions there as well. So I just want to say, man, like, you're one of the few that are taking on some issues. Even if everyone doesn't agree with you, at least you put it out there. But cloud seeding is not going to go away. Weather modification. Real quick
on the cloud seeding thing. I'm not cloud seeding, on the Maui thing. Like, look, I'm not from there, but I know that community, and I watched that stuff spread, and it spreads locally. And I'm not talking about the police chief, but yeah, you know, and in some ways, Gunz, I feel responsible because in the wake of these things in the first couple of days as well, you just don't have a good grasp on every piece of information. So here's a story on Maui, just really quick. There's 100 missing kids, right? Okay, so, there's 100 missing kids. Holy crap. Well, and you can see why that might be. There was a story that they went to school that day, or they stayed home from school and the parents went to work. So were they in the city, and did they get lost in the fire? And as time goes on and you start to track people down who all ran from the fire, you start to find the kids. They don't re-enroll in the school system, so people are like, oh, they're lost forever. No, because they're going to school here, there, and they're not scattered everywhere. That's one. I never indulged the direct energy weapons stuff. I mean, I did indulge it in that I addressed it on this show, and like same kind of thing, zero evidence of anything like that. Blue paint on your roof saved you. Blue cars didn't burn. Nonsense. I was in the city. I saw every color of car burn and every color of car not burn. You know, so I just think for some reason we do this, and some of it is understandable because these things are so horrific. There was a famous line by a guy that I don't think likes me much anymore, but Jonah Goldberg said this after school shootings. He's like, I get the instinct to blame guns or blame anything because when something is so awful, you reach for the handrail of sanity. And the handrail of sanity is to blame so you can correct. Find a bad guy, punish the bad guy, find the failure, and then you can make sure it doesn't happen again. And the sad truth is awful, awful things happen. And they most often happen either, and I think in this Texas case, primarily because nature is heartless and nature is powerful. And we're nothing in the face of nature. And the second is incompetence. There will be incompetence at times when you find these things, way more often than you find nefariousness. And by the way, real quick on cloud seeding, I will say it's regulated. You know, Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. Yeah. So I don't know what everybody's doing. To your point, I don't know how many companies are operating, but they should be operating under regulation. And Augustus wants regulation.
Yeah. No, and I think, like I said, I think that him speaking out is a lot of other CEOs, because normally they just go hiding. You know what I mean? And like, I think in this day and age with social media, where people can turn on you in a second and you can ruin reputations and brands and companies, and then all of a sudden you're trying to disprove something that might already be a negative. It's like, how do you unprove that? You know what I mean? So I reached out to him as soon as I saw his initial tweet where he explained factually what happened, the times and the statements and the receipts. Essentially, I was like, listen, man, like, this is truly interesting, and like, I appreciate you doing that. I think a lot of people could do that as well. And you're exactly right. Like, everyone, social media, like I said, man, it's a great thing, but it's also been hugely detrimental for sure. When I brought up Maui, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant from Las Vegas had so many questions and incompetence in the response that guy got another job.
Still does.
Yeah, which is crazy to me. It's nothing about like the conspiracy or anything like that. I mean, come on now, like, whatever. But like,
I think there's conspiracy. A job. No, I think there's conspiracy to talk about.
Yeah, we can do that. That'll be the after show.
I'm not afraid of conspiracy. I think conspiracy theorists are on a hot run, and you shouldn't dismiss things as conspiracy. No, of course not.
Always question. But don't. If facts are in front of you, you have to be willing to accept facts and information if it's presented to you. And I think you need to always have an open mind. But also, if your theory is disproven, you got to be able to be willing to accept that. And that way, you actually get more legitimacy when you're tweeting some things. Not you, but people out there. So.
Okay, before we talk about college football, I told the guys I wanted to play this for you. I meant to talk about this yesterday, but I'm glad now I get to play it with you. This was fascinating. 2 days. I can't remember the name of the podcast, like Street Takes maybe, or Subway Takes. Subway Takes. It's a podcast. It's like New York oriented, and apparently, would have been like a year ago or last fall. They recorded an interview with Kamala Harris, and they didn't use it. Listen to this.
They emailed me.
They got an email from the
DNC.
Okay.
And they said, "Hey, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are really interested in being on your show." I said, that sounds cool. Okay. I'll at least get to tell my daughter that I met the potential president of the United States. Yeah. And so I said yes, based on the fact that it would be a good story. And also, they both had good takes.
What happened with Kamala?
Her take was really confusing and weird and not good. And so mutually agreed that we shouldn't publish it.
I see.
And I got lucky because I didn't want to be blamed for her losing.
I mean, it was so bad. They mutually agreed. And by the way, Gunz, I'm now dying to know, what was the question and what was the answer that was so bad?
So I actually was able to do some research. I found some of the things because he came out and has just recently given some of the examples. But I do love that clip that you just played because he goes, yeah, her speech was really weird. Yeah, I'm not saying, but she might have been drunk. I'm not saying, but I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, she does, tend to hit the bottle from time to time, as we saw. Maybe she's just living it up, or she's just truly incompetent, which is probably the better answer. But there were two things that he did come out and say, though, Will, which is crazy to me. So obviously, it's the New York City subway take. You want to be hip. You want to be cool. Like, yeah, I'm going to bring in that millennial Gen Z voter. I'm going to go on this. I'm going to go on Call Her Daddy. Like, all right, sure, whatever. But in Kamala and her team's mind, to be hip, her hot take was going to be that, reportedly, was going to be that she was going to fight for people not to be able to take off their shoes on airplanes anymore. And then she didn't go with that. So then she brought up something about, like, is bacon a spice or not? Reportedly, okay? I mean, that's what, like, she was trying to be funny and hip, but it just came across as cringe if that's true of what has been told. I mean, that's being like, hey, like, is a hot dog a sandwich? Let's debate. Like, this is why you lost.
And you fumble that.
Yeah, like, you blew that. This is why you lost. All right. Not only did you bypass the whole entire primary process and just got put in there without going through the way it's supposed to happen. So you already pissed off a lot of your party and voters that way, because they're like, we didn't even get a say on this. And you held off what was happening to the president at the time, I think almost purposely, so that they didn't have a say, because they was probably worried of who would have came in if they actually did have a regular primary. You put in Kamala. She's lost. She's incompetent. She's so cringe. And my question to you, Will Cain, is, what is going on with these people? You got Elizabeth Warren, who's like, remember she had that hideous video. She's like cracking a beer. And she's like, I'm going to drink with all y'all out there. Like, what? No, you're not. You're not invited to my party. That's sure as hell. And then you got Kamala. I mean, this didn't even air. And for him to come out and say, I didn't want to get blamed, that just shows you how bad this had to have been. Because if we saw anything, Kamala had, pick your number of how many awful appearances she had. So there's a reason she lost. Thank God she lost. She shouldn't have even been in the running. And I hope we just don't hear from her again. I mean, nobody cares about her. She blew it. She blew it, man.
Here's what I want to know. I can see how he said, okay, he's probably a Democrat. And he's like, okay, I don't want to tank her election. Or maybe he was just self-interested in being like, I don't want to be the guy blamed. So I get the motivation on his side. What I'm interested in is the conversation afterwards with Kamala and her team, because it's like straight out of Veep. And like, so someone said, like, let's just kind of think this out through her team. Like somebody probably, maybe even low level, like a young person was like, hey, that was really bad. Did you hear that answer? What'd you think? What did you think? I think it was bad. What'd you think? I thought it was awful. You tell her. I'm not going to tell her. You tell her. And then they have to go tell her, hey, that was awful. That answer, maybe we should try to cut it. Yeah. And then she has to rationalize it. She's like, really? Really? Was it that bad? Really? What did I say? You think
then
so?
She just overthinks everything from then on.
They get her all insecure. Yep. They get her all insecure and ready to do it. And then they have to go back to the dude and be like, hey, what do you think about cutting that out? Or just scrapping the whole thing?
My favorite is she went on Call Her Daddy, of course, the biggest podcast. And listen, that, I guess besides Rogan, obviously, but the biggest podcast, for like women or whatnot. So she goes on that and she spent, we don't even know where she's broke. You know what I mean? She went through all those billions of dollars for nothing. And we found out that she was like dropping money, millions left and right. They built a studio and Alex Cooper came out afterwards, the Call Her Daddy. They Kamala built a studio. It's one of the most bootleg things I've ever seen in my life. There's microphone wires everywhere. And Alex Cooper came out and she said she was just laughing at it. Like, this is pathetic. Like, yo, if you're trying to reach a younger demo, this ain't it. This ain't it. So, I mean, nothing better. Listen, could there be anything better than just seeing these people fail? I mean, I love to see it. The fact that of all the cringe moments, and there's plenty of them, that this one didn't even make the light of day, it's almost like I got to see the tapes. I got to see the tapes. They're somewhere, man. We got to see them because somebody's just got to link those tapes. Oh, man. I love it, though.
All right,
Kamala.
Mike Gunzelman here, Gunz at Outkick, hanging out with us here on Will Cain Country. The Athletic has published your top 100 college football rivalries of all time. Yeah. I'm going to share with you the top 5 and a few notables. The top 5 reads like this. At number 5, USC Notre Dame. At number 4, Army Navy. At number 3, Texas OU. At number 2, Auburn Alabama. And at number 1, Michigan, Ohio State. Not in the top 5, but notable. Miami, Florida State came in at number 7.
Yep.
Florida State came in at number 9. Texas A&M came in at number 15. And USC, UCLA came in at number 14. So first, what do you think, Gunz?
I'm shocked that I actually agree. I think they nailed. I really do think they nailed their top 10. Top 5 maybe could switch some of them around, but when it comes to rivalries, I mean, there's no doubt that they nailed the top 2. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State, and then obviously into the Iron Bowl between Alabama and Auburn. I mean, of course, I think they absolutely nailed that. I mean, Ohio State.
I think they nailed the top 4.
Yeah,
okay, I think they nailed the top 4 with Texas OU and Army Navy coming in.
Yeah, I mean, especially because, listen, even if all the games aren't tremendous, it's the fact that we're talking about rivalries here. I mean, I'm a Notre Dame fan, and so I did like seeing the USC thing there. If I see somebody, if I'm on, say, the New York City subway, and I see somebody with a USC hat, and they desperately need to sit down, I'm not giving up my seat to them, Will. You know what I mean? As a Notre Dame fan, I'm not giving up my seat to somebody.
Hold it right there. So you're a Notre Dame guy. So you heard me say I think they got the top 4. USC Notre Dame is obviously a rivalry that I'm aware of, but it's not one that I have ever had an emotional investment in, nor appreciated others having an emotional investment in.
Yeah.
Because It doesn't have a natural geographic rivalry. It was never a conference rivalry. You know, it just didn't add up to the ingredients that I got used to for what defines a rivalry. I know it's a big game, and maybe that's what I always saw it as, the difference between a big game and a rivalry. But growing up, I'll tell you, I thought Miami, Florida State, that's a really big rivalry. Not in the same conference. Actually, they ended up in the same conference, right? But I just didn't appreciate Notre Dame USC in the same way you did as a Golden Domer. Yeah,
of course. Now, listen, I'm going to be fair here. You know, should it be top, but should it be number 5? I could argue it doesn't need to be top 5. But I truly believe that it's a rivalry. I mean, like, just based on what I just said right there. And the fact is that they continue to play, and like, there's so many implications, and there's been so many historic implications. Of course, Notre Dame, obviously, because there's, you know, they're not in a conference or whatnot, like, they have a kind of a different route. But when you're talking about the Irish, like, yeah, I mean, if this was, you know, 15 years ago, I would, Florida State, I think you could do. Those Seminoles Irish games were nuts back in the day. But I also hate Michigan as a Notre Dame person as well. And I think a lot of people out there might just hate Michigan in general. I absolutely don't mind this whatsoever. I love that they did include Army Navy. You know, got to give them props for that. Maybe the only one that I think maybe could have cracked the top 10 was Georgia, Florida. I think Georgia, Florida could have, you know, there is definitely some heat there. But once you start going into that, though, Will, you're talking about SEC. I mean, everything every weekend, there's something crazy happening. So you're talking top 100. I think they actually did a really good job here. I would love to see, though, in like 5 years from now, what it is. Obviously, like the Big Ten, I think is going to start making some moves. SEC to Big Ten right now, you kind of seen the paradigm shift, if you would. But I'd also like to know and look at this, Will, and I'd love to talk about this in the future with you, is like, with the NIL deals, man, are these rivalries still going to matter? When you start going up to the younger generation coming up and they're following perhaps players, or perhaps they're not as invested in teams and historic legacy because players might be bouncing around, almost like an NBA type thing where, you know, it's like, oh, well, you know, I liked Shaq because he was on the Magic. Well, he's not on the Magic anymore, so I'm going to follow him elsewhere. Is that going to start happening, or will these rivalries continue to stand? So, I think, of course, some of them will. I don't think that's think NIL is a big question, man, in the coming future.
I don't think NIL, I can't see that right now having a big impact on rivalry, but I will tell you, super conferences threaten rivalries. So to me, the way I grew up, and I'm a big fan of the regionalization of college football. Like, I love, you know, interstate rivalries and you know, the love and hate you share with a neighbor. So like, when I'm just scrolling through the list, and by the way, Georgia, Florida came in at number 12, but like, I'm just going to, these are rivalries that I go, oh, they're playing this weekend. Coming in at number 30, Washington State. I think that's interesting. Utah, BYU comes in at 28. Oregon State comes in at 27. Oklahoma State, Bedlam, comes in at 25. Clemson, South Carolina, 24. And on. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and so forth. Kansas, Missouri. This is what defines a great rivalry to me. I think Texas A&M is too low at 15. But that's been on ice for 20 years. By the way, Nebraska, Oklahoma's been on ice for a while as well, and it still comes in at number 6. So that's, to me, like, what a big rivalry is. But there's another component, because I grew up when USC, UCLA also meant something, right? Rodney Peete, Troy Aikman. Back then it meant something. That rivalry, it's hard to make it mean something because it's so one-sided. And so on a lot of these, I think that's what depresses them. They're just too one-sided.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you. It's you know, it's generational right there. It's a generational difference. You know what I mean? So like, where do you make the line? But that's always going to happen with these kind of lists. That's why they're great to debate and discuss. But yeah, I mean, the geographic standpoint, which is why a lot of the SEC ones are so fun, you know, or like, you know, you look at that Bama, Auburn and everything like that, is the fact that, yeah, I mean, it's just like Duke UNC in basketball. I mean, they're right there. They're right there. And like, you're you're either with me or you're against me. You're one side or the other. And it goes beyond the field, which is what truly makes sports what it is, my friend. You know what I mean? I'm a diehard Yankee fan. The Red Sox, like, I could never date and definitely couldn't marry a Red Sox fan in my life. Like, we would not, well, like, it wouldn't happen. I would probably marry a Democrat before I could marry a Red Sox fan as a Yankee, my friend.
Wow. That's a hell of a statement.
So, you know what I mean? You know what I mean
poor.
there? So.
Poor choice, Gunz. All right, man. This has been a fun conversation covering a lot of bases. Check out Gunz at outkick.com where he writes, and he's also on X. Appreciate you being with us today here, man. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you as well. Real quick, I just want to say this. I'm covering the UFC all weekend. We're going to have a big thing with Dana White as well. And I also have a piece coming out later. I spoke with a lot of the headliners of this weekend's UFC fight and specifically asked them if they want to fight at the White House, because Trump was like, oh, let's have a UFC event. You want to check out what they say.
Right.
A lot of these fighters are down. They were pitching themselves, Will, to Trump. I was like, maybe he'll see. They are head over heels to fight for the country in front of for UFC in front of the country at the White House. So keep an eye on that. I think you guys will really appreciate it. Will, appreciate you being the real one, man, as always.
All right, man. Take care. You bet. Mike Gunzelman over at Outkick. I'm in on that, by the way, a UFC fight on the grounds of the White House for America's 250th anniversary. All right, that's going to do it for us today here on Will Cain Country. We hope you will download, subscribe, tune in every Monday through Thursday live at YouTube and Facebook. We'll see you again next time.